Glad to have you back on Morning Flight on Love World Expressions, where we do entertain you beyond borders. A business analyst, Ayo Adegboye, will soon be joining us. And of course, we'll be discussing managing your personal finances. But how do you manage, or have you been managing your personal finances?
By the grace of God.
I think that's just the perfect answer, because in the times that we are in, actually managing your finances can only be by wisdom, and that wisdom only can be the wisdom of God. Because many a times in the practical situation, let's be realistic, many people earn, let me put a benchmark of what an average person can earn. Let's say 50,000 naira.
Yeah?
Or 15.
No, it has gone beyond. 50,000 is poor.
No,
it has to be like 150 now.
No,
I'm telling you.
How many people actually earn that 150?
Hey, that 50, that's a poor person.
An average person should earn, okay, let me benchmark at 2 years, 150.
Yeah.
At 150, that individual is not sleeping on the road. That individual probably is married with 2 kids. And that individual, has 3 or 4 siblings, and mother and father is alive. And that person has to survive. Now with the 150, having to taking out your tithe, partnership, depending on how much your faith, how much faith you have, you are left with just a fraction of your, earnings. And you need to be able to manage your finance. Sometimes many people have to spend because there's one need or the other. There's what they call black tax. Your father or mother calls and says, the pumping machine in our house is not working, or the roof is leaking. So certain emergencies, maybe the child is not feeling well, have to go to the hospital. So there's a lot happening at the same time. So, but regardless of all the circumstances or all that is happening, one has to be disciplined to be able to stay afloat even with the little that you earn.
To be able to stay afloat.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. One person who I also think will add much more than that to it, it's our guest, Ayo Adegboye, a trainer, coach, mentor, and speaker at several local and international conferences where he's been able to offer solutions to emerging African economy, complex solution selling, and impact of IT on modern day business. Ayo Adegboye, PhD. It's a pleasure having you on our program. Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, I'd like to do a double barrel as the first question. And how will you define personal finances, and what's the best way to set some financial goals?
All right. Thank you also again for having me. By the question in terms of personal financing, we could actually relate personal finance to like a kind of which cover managing your money, and doing pardon me. Kill it completely. All right. I'm trying to adjust the radio from here. All right. It's actually how you tend to manage your money in terms of saving, investing. It encompasses a whole lot. The decision for you to say, do I bank my money? Where do I put in my money? Do you have money in mortgage, in investment? Day-to-day activities and decisions you make on how you spend money, how prudent you are, and the choice of decision you make in terms of where do you put your money. Those are actually put it together. It's called personal finance management. So it cuts across decisions, which also come with intuition in terms of, okay, you need to be money smart. The least you do with money is to keep money in a bank, or maybe like a money market, for example, where while you're able sleeping, you're getting some interest on it. But there are several investments you can consider of doing. And again, this comes with you being prudent enough to be able to have some decent savings, not spending everything that comes your way. Thanks.
And you talked about having investment and banking, not the only or the best investment to actually grow your money. Now, we've seen a lot of incidences happen and people's experiences, and people feel like, look, some investments have gone bad. So rather than, put my money into someone else's business or invest in something, I'd rather have it in the bank. Now, for someone who is owing or is already in debt and wants to come out of this debt and wants to save as well, what is the realistic way to do this? Because a lot of people, you hear people speak in business schools and say, look, guy, invest your money. Do I really need to invest my money when I'm a debtor at the moment? How can I come out of debt and save as well?
There's a bit of that in terms of saving money while you're in debt. It makes sense to say while you're in debt, but the question is, when you are in debt, you also need to consider if your debt is accumulating interest. Now, you want to consider or to compare the interest you're paying vis-a-vis the debt itself. So if you are in a debt that makes you to also pay interest, you need to consider what you're paying on the interest. Okay. On the long run, it makes sense to save, but you need to compare what you're paying in terms of interest on your debt. If your debt is not exposed, does not expose you to paying interest, but it's just limited to principal, then you can also structure the repayment plan while you also try to consider to save. But if you are in a debt such that allow you to also do interest, you also want to consider the interest accumulating compared to the money you think you're saving. On the long run, you need to make an informed decision. But it makes sense to save while you're in debt.
Okay. It makes sense to save.
It makes sense to save while you're in debt. That's what you said, sir?
That's what he said.
Okay.
Yes, so it makes sense to save while in debt, but you need to consider the interest rate. Except otherwise, you are in debt, you are not paying interest, then it makes sense to save. But when you have to pay interest on the debt, you now need to look at what you're saving. Will it not result into you still having compounded interest on the long run that you have to pay? So those are the factors you need to consider.
You know, for this generation, there's a way we look at money. There are some people that look at money as if, see, I can't keep myself. This money, there's one meme that goes, I beg, let me just, I came for, this money for, if it's last money, let me enjoy my life. Let me enjoy my life. I have bills to pay. I cannot be thinking about saving. I just have enough for transport fare to the office and back. Especially for people that earn like 50K, 80K, 100K. In this economy, it can only do so much. What's the best financial plan or goal you can tell such a young person for now, today?
Okay, it's a lifestyle. If you're earning 50K, if you're earning 50 million, if you don't have a lifestyle of saving, you still won't save. Okay. Remember that needs are different from wants. And until we're able to separate these two. So again, it's a lifestyle and it's a discipline. It's not a function of how much you earn. If you look at the generation these days who don't want to save, there's no quick fix at the end of the day. But all they need to do is, you can still afford to enjoy certain things and be disciplined if you're smart enough in how you go about with your finances. No people I could get there to explain a few things about, especially for people who work 8 to 5 o'clock, who earn salary. How do I get to invest money? Where is the source of money? And how do I live within my income? And yes, still being able to save some money to do some sort of businesses.
Okay, now that you already did mention that, for someone who is, because many people are 9-to-5 people, the fraction of people who work for themselves are very little compared to those who work for others. How can these people be money smart, live within my income and I still save? Because there are times of emergency, whether or not we like it. Because sometimes I may not have planned that something happens to my car on my way to work, in my little bit that I'm managing. What do I do in times like that and still save? Because things are...
Let me just give a practical example. Sir, somebody's earning 50K, works in Ikeja, lives in Akute. Sir, are you listening?
Yes, I'm with you. Okay, let's look at it this way. If you work in an office where you do 8 to 5, you're allowed to take a loan of 200K, 100K, as the case may be.
After 6 months or 1 year of working, no. Most offices will not allow you to just take loan like that. You have to work for a period of time.
Let's say 6 months, as the case may be. Such loan, you don't pay interest on such loan.
So how smart can you play around with such fund? And let me give you an example. I can be working in an office, take a loan of ₦1 million, and because I'm still on a paid job, I don't have anything, I don't have as much time to do other business. Have you thought of taking a loan of ₦1 million, keeping it in money market? Money market is about 8 to 12% interest.
Nice.
And you're paying it back. At the end of the year, you've taken ₦1 million in advance without interest. But that ₦1 million is yielding you 12% per annum.
Okay.
So this is a smart way to manage your finance and to be able to discipline yourself. So if you are earning 100K, you've taken a loan, your salary is reduced to 70K, live within the limit of 70K, while the money you've taken is actually working for you even when you're sleeping.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, can we talk about the 50-30-20 budget rule?
Okay.
Do you believe in it?
Yeah, I believe in it. It depends on what for individual. This best solution is to strike balance between savings, paying, and of debt. You know, the 50 say that you have saved between the 50, you spend 50%, and the 30-20 in terms of the paying debt and the rest. So at every point in time, how well you are able to strike balance goes a long way. So you need to be able to strike balance between the 50, 30, and the 20, and know what you need at a particular point in time. The most important thing is to be diligent enough and to stick to the plan. So people get carried away with Ashebi, yeah, we're going for one bear, and you want to do like others. No, there are times for everything. So there are times you need to be prudent. There are times you need to put money into investment where your money works for you. And there are times you want to spoil yourself after you have attained that we have set out to do in terms of you giving yourself financial targets. So I believe in 50, 30, 20, but you need to, at any point in time, strike balance between your needs, your want, and your financial goals.
This thing that you said is a table shaking stuff. Because you say we should not buy Ashwebi. Do we wear ordinary clothes to the place? You know, in this part of the world, Ashwebi seems to be solidarity for the person that actually is marking that occasion.
For real, as I am like this, honestly, if I'm going to do Ashwebi for you, just know that it was forced on me, maybe by family. I don't buy Ashwebi anymore. When I was still not like this, I realized that it took most of my money. I had friends that were getting married every other weekend. I had to make up my mind that, look, the money I use for Ashwebi, I'll divide it to give you some for your wedding and keep the rest. Like, it was just a financial decision I made then that stuck to me till now. But, sir, the question I want to ask is this. Can you emergency funds, planning for emergency funds, the way you give tips now, how money can work for you while you're doing a 9 to 5, can you just give us like basic tips or plans, how we can plan for emergency funds? Like some people will tell you that their grandmother swallowed nail in the village, you have to take them to hospital, like different emergency things that come up. How do we plan for that, especially for a 9 to 5 person as well?
Okay, that's a good question. I would like to approach this from two perspectives. And I remember my mentor once told me something that when you're saving money and you're saying, this money I'm saving it because of emergency, the emergency will eventually come. But that you're saving money doesn't mean it must be rainy day, or you're saving for rainy day, or you're saving for emergency. You could be saving for the purpose of investing it in the future.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to save money. That's clear. But when you're saving money, you don't need to tie the money to this is what you want to do with it. And let me just give you an example of a particular scenario with one of my nephews. So he came to me, a young man. He lost his dad. So he got some 15 million naira thereabout with his parents. At that point, they felt like they need to change the look of their house. They need to change the roof. They need to paint the house. They wanted to buy a car. And I told him, you're just coming out of university as a graduate with a very strong 2-1. And I'm saying that this 15 million put together, do you realize it's not even up to $40,000? Have you thought about coming back to me? Let me help you add another 5-10 million to this. Go to US, go and do your second degree, go to Harvard or go to any of the. And by the time you're coming, have you thought about the future you're building for yourself and your siblings? He left, they spent the 15 million, and they came back again. So there will always be need. There will always be need. There will always be roof that is leaking somewhere. But if you can be disciplined enough at a time like this to focus on what you intend to do, the same people who are asking you that roof is leaking today, they will still ask you in 10 years that the same roof is leaking. But if you can take an incremental decision and take your eyes off, the same people will praise you eventually. That's the case.
Amazing. You know, you just reminded me of a message I heard from the certain man of God, our very own dear man of God, Pastor Chris. Pastor says, learn to say no. It's very important to say no, especially to black taxes. You know, like you said, the future, they'll always come back. Now, finally, I want you to give us 1, 2, 3 steps on, you know, managing finances to a layman. What do I do? First thing, pay so and so. You know, as a professional, tell us what to do for someone who wants to start now, because, you know, sometimes information comes and we just want to begin and go ahead and see how we can practicalize some of the things that we've learned. What can I do for me?
There's no hard and fact about it, but you could just, okay, let me just quickly say like 3 or 4 steps. You need to set a realistic goals for yourself. As a young person coming up, set a realistic goal. This is what I want to do by so time. Number 2 is create a personal budget for yourself.
Okay. Hello?
Hello, sir? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, all right. I started with the create a personal budget. And then the third one, limit credit expenses. You need to limit your exposure to buying things in credit so that you don't put yourself under pressure. The last one is contribute to savings. Make sure you contribute to savings, no matter how little you save. And the last one is be consistent and be doing all this over and over again.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me once again.
It's a pleasure having you on the program. Thank you so much. And I can tell you've helped me to make one decision this morning. Thank you once again.
Do I know what that decision
I think I have an idea. And you must do it.
Thank you.
You will do it, sir, as you have done it. Because we'll be asking Dickin to give us buy breakfast for us.
Yeah, that decision has been made.
It has been made. It has been done.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ayo.
Okay.
It's an emergency fund.
We'll take this break, and when we come back, the program continues shortly. It's still Morning Vibe on Love Word Expressions, where we do entertain you beyond borders. Do stay tuned.